6 P.M. I'll call this Town of Oregon annual meeting to order. Item number 2 is approval of the minutes from the 2022 meeting. We need to have a motion and a second for that. I'll call for a motion.
Approve the 2022 annual meeting minutes.
Got a motion from Fred Clark to approve. Is there a second?
A second.
Second from Arlen Christensen. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Thank you. 3, set the date of the 2024 annual meeting. The date is already set for April 16th. We gotta have a motion to approve that date.
As long as we don't change the date, you don't need to have a motion. If there's a wanting to change it, we would need a motion.
Okay, we'll just leave the date for 2024 annual meeting to be on April 16th, 2024, here at the town hall at 6 P.M. Item 3, Oregon Senior Center. Rachel, you've got the floor.
Oh, good evening. Thank you for letting me be here at your annual meeting. For those of you who don't know me, my back to the, I don't know how do you work hybrid meetings, right? I'm kind of standing back there. You're good. Thank you for letting me be here. I'm Rachel Brickner. I'm the director of the Senior Center in Oregon. I am a local product. I lived in the rural townships that make up the Oregon School District for all but 3 years of my life. So I appreciate what the rural towns can do for their residents. And I appreciate the partnership that you've had with the Village of Oregon since 1980 when the Senior Center opened its doors. I'm here tonight to talk about 2022 being at your annual meeting. We'll talk about what our year was like, and you have in your packet our we don't really call it an annual report this year, it's our snapshot. And on the first page of that snapshot, there's a few things I'd like to highlight. A few statistics that just give you an idea of what the Senior Center provided last year. First of all, 33,931 activities at the Senior Center last year. And when you break that down to the number of days that we were open, not weekends or holidays or whatever, that was about 137 activities a day going on in the Senior Center. So we're well used. We also provided just under 1,800 rides last year. Local volunteers delivered meals and also took people to appointments. Local volunteers drove 27,500 miles for older adults in our service area last year. That's more than around the world at the equator. So that's a tremendous investment that people are making in their neighbors and in their communities. There were also rides provided through our Dane County Transportation Grant to the food pantry, to grocery stores, to the Senior Center, to our adult day program, those kinds of places as well. We were responsible for helping get, I say helping because Ziggy's was responsible for about 1,000 of them, but helping get 12,500 meals into the hands of older adults. Some of those are meals delivered to people in their homes because they're mostly homebound. And some of those are people who are able to come in and join us at the center. We have 150 active volunteers. They put in about 7,600 hours of time for us. That's more than 3.5 full-time staff worth of hours. That's more full-time staff than we have that we get out of the volunteers. So if any of you know or are volunteers for the center, thank you. We couldn't do what we do without those volunteers. So that's kind of page 1. Page 2, I think. Page 2 gives you a comparison of the decade, kind of a look at where we were in 2012 and where we were in 2022. And you can see, as you would expect, everything goes up. More people are aging, that baby boomer bulge continues to come into the older adult population. So everything goes up, some up a lot. we got closer to being what I call pre-COVID normal in 2022. Our building opened up for the normal number of hours and stuff again. But 2022 still wasn't normal. It's already kind of in our rearview mirror now, but at the beginning of 2022, we were having that Omicron surge and things all kind of closed down again, and we had to open things up again very slowly. And I would say we're starting to feel like we're back to normal. We're starting to have the normal number of people show up for exercise class or whatever again. The next page is the next page with a pie chart of the funding and an indication as well above that of what things were new this year. A lot of what was new was driven by volunteers. We had volunteers who wanted to start a creative writing class that was so popular it became two. We have a diabetic support group that's led by a retired nurse. We just a whole host of things that we took advantage of being able to offer this year at the center. Reflexology is available now. One of our staff took a UW continuing education course in advanced motivational interviewing, which she found to be very helpful. It's a way of helping people find within themselves the motivation to make changes that they need to make that are in their own best interest. Then we have our funding numbers, and the funding, this is not audited numbers because the village does not yet have their audit back, but these are, I feel pretty confident it's very close to where the funding came from last year. And you can see that the Village of Oregon was our biggest funder. Dane County, the grant that we receive every year, was our second largest funder. Town of Oregon, thank you very much, is our third largest funder last year, contributing just under $58,000, or 11% of the support of the center. We also make money from our adult day programs. Town of Rutland, Town of Dunn makes contribution. Village of Brooklyn makes a contribution. Funding can seem kind of complicated because it comes with Dane County's grant comes with a lot of strings attached to it that we have to deal with. We're guessing every year about how much money we're going to make on our adult day program, how many people are going to attend, how much are they going to attend. The funding formula that we've had between the municipalities and the Village of Oregon is itself a kind of complicated document. So funding can be kind of complicated. I'm always happy to answer questions about funding. I'll meet with people one-on-one if you want to talk about funding, but I am coming to a meeting on May 9th to talk specifically about how the senior center is funded and how the board wants to approach funding the center in the future. The last page of our snapshot is a bunch of snapshots. And our bunch of snapshots show people having fun. And people do have a lot of fun at the center. And so we've got a few highlights there. But I always want to tell people it's easy to take pictures of people having fun. It's not so easy to take the pictures of the other things that we do that aren't always so much fun. So what you don't see here amongst the exercisers and the cardboard cow cutout is the kind of things our case managers do. And our case managers were pretty busy last year dealing with things like housing issues, insurance issues, elder abuse issues, transitions from hospital back home again, transition from nursing home stays back home again. It's kind of an endless round. So when you see the smiles, that's great. We're happy to have those smiles, but some of the most important work that we're doing at the center isn't those smiling faces. So always remember there's the other side of that coin. I just want to offer my thank yous to the outgoing board members for the time that I was able to work with you guys. It was a delight, really. And to welcome the new members of the board and let you know that I'm looking forward to working with all of you as well. So Anybody have any questions? That's kind of a lot of information. Oh, we do have all of the pages of statistics probably in your packet too. These do show the use of the center broken down by municipalities. Percentage of use, pages of data, which I can explain if anybody's interested. These were all generated as part of the contract that the municipalities share. As they figured out how they wanted to fund the center, they decided it would be based on how much everybody was using it. And so that required producing all of these sheets of data. But you can tell from looking at them, things like how many people in the town of Oregon had meals, or how many people in the town of Oregon came to exercise classes or received case management services. So it allows you to get a little bit more of a focus on what's going on with your township. Anybody have any questions? Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming
You can do
in.
it.
Nice presentation.
Thank you, Rachel.
Let's give Rachel a hand for all the hard work she does. Okay. Item 5, Oregon Area Fire and EMS District, Chief Glenn Linsmeyer. You're next.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me tonight. So I see Jennifer put the full 33 pages of the annual report in there too. Did one for a hard copy for the town, so. Just in general, I know, for those that don't know me, I'm Glenn Linsmeyer, Fire Chief here in Oregon, been here for a while, resident of the town of Oregon, so. We're glad to have Oregon as one of our partners in our fire district. Keep in mind, the fire district is basically 3 townships and also the village of Oregon. The town of Oregon, of course, is our #2 contributor towards the fire district as far as most of the revenues and also expenditures and that kind of stuff. And Jennifer and Wayne and everybody reminds me of how expensive fire and EMS protection is this day and age. And believe me, I'll tell you one thing right now, you'll probably notice already, it's not going down. So that's just one thing that I can tell you, that just the fire and EMS arena has got a price tag with it almost as bad as medical procedures at a medical hospital. So I think we're all set and understand that very well. Here or there, thank you again to town of Oregon for being a partner of the fire district and all that kind of stuff. I'll capture a couple of the things here basically through our annual report. And the biggest things are basically our numbers and that kind of stuff. Where we currently sit with our men and women in Oregon right now, we got about 50 men and women on the department. On an annual basis, you probably heard me say this before, we are a training ground. We are a level B team, basically like for a baseball club. That people come to us, men and women, they get their fire and EMS, they get their paramedic, that kind of stuff. And then they go someplace in the country. And this last year again, you can see that everything from Billings, Montana, all the way to different places. I can't read that. I gotta get closer with my glasses. I can't see that small print. But basically all over the country at the end of the day. Usually about 8 to 10 people a year is what we lose. So we have a revolving door. We have men and women coming in. We use those people for a specific amount of time, and then they're gone. And they get a job and they send me cards and they tell me they've been married and having families and all that other kind of stuff. So I have a big extended family throughout the country. Moving on through that, basically, again, for the commission this last year, we basically laid out, they wanted to see where we spent a lot of our hours. We have about 6 full-time people plus 2 admin people, myself, and I got also a division chief of EMS that helps run some of the admin stuff. But other than that, the majority of our folks are paid on call, people that are basically come into Oregon, stay at our fire station, or paid on premise. People that live in the community, carry a pager, carry a telephone, and come when we are in need of having folks around. Moving on. Basically, the things that mean a lot probably to all of our district partners and all that kind of stuff. I look at that stretch and it's hard to believe that stretch is almost, I guess you could say, Glenn Linsmeyer stretch, because I've been here since basically 16. Hard to believe, but basically back in 16 to where we are today, and you look at what we've done in the different things. continually to try to build out our fleet to try, and I'm not saying like the brand newest thing and that kind of stuff. We have been known to buy some used stuff, put some stuff in place, try to maintain the building that you built 22 years ago, trying to keep that stuff up to date, trying to keep it where it needs to be and not let it fall behind. We've had a lot of good discussions with a lot of the different boards, the different townships and all that group from capital plans, looking at buildings, looking at all the kind of different stuff, but that's basically where we are today is basically the $2 million, a little over $2 million for an annual budget. We've got everything laid out over the last years. We've got everything laid out as far as our capital plans, as far as all of the tools and equipments and all that other kind of stuff that we've been doing. So that's been working out very well. Moving on. The stuff that really looks at how we operate and all that kind of stuff. The blue is basically EMS, and we look at our EMS runs basically in our district, basically. 1,220 calls last year for 12 months, 427 for fire calls. And again, if you take that and you look on an average, we're usually about 4.5 calls a day and growing, that kind of stuff. The key that the board and myself, when I say the board, I'm talking about the fire commission. I put it back to our group that it is in our best interest that we capture our second and third calls. In doing so, sometimes I'm running my fire forces down to almost, 1 or 2 people for a couple hour period. But we're then capturing our own EMS calls and we're not looking and relying on taking it to Brooklyn or Fitzrona or to any of the other EMS districts. We're trying to capture that in-house and respond to our own calls. And of course, the majority of that is in the village of Oregon with the close proximity of the town. You just look at the nucleus of where those calls are. It's right in the center of our district where one would want that to be. Moving on. Again, this is just some fancy breakdowns and showing growth in numbers and everything else, the things that have happened over the last few years. We'll scroll through this, and if there's any questions at any given time, we'll take a few questions, should there be any. We continually work with our neighbors, our fire departments, both on east and west of us and north and south of us. We do different fire evolutions, different trainings, all that kind of stuff, try to do things cooperatively on a large scale, because when and if the large scale events happen, we come together and we want to be prepared to be able to work with each other. Again, just breaking down things more in statistics, you can look at the calls, you can look at percentages, you can look at how many times we had paramedics in here, all that kind of thing. One of the biggest things that we've done this last year as a kind of a plan, when they hired me back in 2016, we always looked at basically upgrading the service to paramedic. I'm proud to say that this last February, we turned on the system. So we are now at paramedic level in Oregon. So we can administer a little bit more care prior to that transport into the hospital in Madison. So which is a large accomplishment for our operation. 23, again, just using our ambulances more, trying to capture all those. There's probably a point in time where we might have to think about 3 ambulances being on at certain nights and days. We got a lot of special events, as you'll see scrolling down to the next screen. This is just a lot of the stuff that we had to build out, this next stuff, the NARC box and all this other stuff. This is all stuff that we had to do for the paramedic level for those that are in the medical field. We just have to account for all of our drugs and keep all that stuff tagged and cataloged and all that kind of thing. All that stuff is in place. We bought some high fidelity mannequins, like $27,000 mannequins. And we have people that believe in us that basically have donated some large sums of money towards this $27,000 mannequin, basically where we can start IVs and fluids and all this other kind of stuff. They are very happy that we went to the medic level. So those are huge accomplishments at the end of the day. Our fire side of it, we try to do a lot of hours in the fire side of it. Again, we have a lot of young men and women, so the only way to get them to where we need them to be is to actually take them out in the fires, put them into different situations, and try to work with them, because we want to make the incident when we come to you, we want to make that as the least amount of chaos and most organized as possible. And the only way I can do that is by having our people trained. And when you have young people, only time and experiences in the field, we make that happen. Capital purchases is last year, we upgraded one of the vehicles, for the admin team folks. You probably saw last summer at Summerfest, the Masons of Oregon basically donated, 5 FSPs, basically are their suitcase, their suppression gas, that basically, if I have a room that's on fire like this here, I can come here, I might beat the fire truck per se sometimes, because I do respond to the incident myself, and we spread them throughout the district. I come here, I pull the pins, I throw it in, and a lot of law enforcement also have these in different parts of the country. You throw them in, it does suppression on about, probably about 5,000 square feet, 5,000 cubic feet of home that they work fairly well. Fortunately, we have not used any yet, but they are there for us if and when we need them, that kind of thing. Also, Alliant Energy, we received a grant from that. We received a bunch of Milwaukee stuff. Everything's going battery operated this day and age into the fire service. So we bought a bunch of scene lighting and different saws and different equipment that we basically put in place. You've probably seen right there, we do the one big annual fundraiser where the association, our 501c3, our fundraising arm of the district, basically has a $10,000 raffle, that $100 tickets where you had a chance at winning 10,000. We put a couple drones into play last year, so we bought $15,000 worth of drones. We got 2 drones that we use for different incidents. We've used them different places. We've used them more than I thought. I know we would use them all the time, but probably 6 or 7 incidents already within the last 6 or 7 months. So it's amazing the opportunity that we have for those drones, just for that alone. We do a lot of special education with the schools, the different things there, the health classes and all that. Of course, we're at Madison Speedway, probably about 36 or 40 events a year for Greg and Angie out there. We're down into the town of Rutland, down at Screaming Acres, down at Eyster Farms. We've got a lot of stuff going on there. And then we got the kids triathlon and the Milkman that runs through the village of Oregon here too in June. A lot of different events. Again, just a lot of things going on, a lot of participation. And I tell our men and women, it's just about nonstop. I mean, it's just about almost every weekend or at least every other for sure. But, you know, we need to be in communities. People need to know us. We need to want to come up to us. We want to meet people. We hopefully can recruit some young individuals to our operation, all that kind of stuff. It's just one of those things that without their contact, we're behind the 8 ball, and it would try to stay in the community as much as possible so people can get to know us and understand us. And that's not me. The last thing that I have, any questions so far? Hearing none? Hearing none, we did something else that we put together this year, is a, basically, this covers all of them, and I understand that, Cassie said, I'll take the extras with me, I've made about 60 of them, but I'll take the rest with me to the other 2 annual meetings tonight. So not that I'm rushing myself or trying to make my life move along, but basically, no matter where you go, certain practices and principles in this literature that I'm sending out is about open burning and fire, as far as like permitted burning and all that kind of stuff. So town of Oregon, the way it currently sets is that you do not need a permit from the fire department, although it is highly recommended you call us and let us know. When you call us, we log you in, just like there is a permit, we give it a date and time and everything else, and it clearly states what you can burn. And what I'm saying, what you can burn is the state of Wisconsin. No oily rags, you put it this way, no hydrocarbons, no gas, no, none of that kind of stuff. No, anything that goes into recyclable bins or goes to DNR as far as recycling tin cans and all that kind of stuff, none of that stuff should be burned. So that's state law. And I'm just an agent of the state. I got a card in my pocket that says I'm an agent of the state of Wisconsin for DISPUS. And what that does is just basically, again, tells everyone that I'm supposed to enforce state law and all the above. Then we have our local ordinances and all that. Since Oregon doesn't have anything, we always just look at the state for that. And you saw last week, we had burning going on 4,000 or 5,000 acres in the central part of the state. Fortunately, we didn't have that down here. People are pretty good. Every once in a while, I get somebody that I live with or somebody in my township or somebody close that when it burns or burns or doesn't think the fire department has anything to say about it and all the above, and then we just kind of talk about it, we see if we can make life better and not burn anything down and all the above. But this basically covers the basic standards, no matter if you're in Brooklyn or Oregon or in Belleville's fire district, and it covers it really well. The second part of that is, when we had ice this last winter, we had all of those tree limbs down. Our ambulances come and take a look at the sides of them. They are awful. Because the tree limbs are down and we don't have the width, we don't have the height, and all these branches are down and the ambulances drive in, we gotta pick up people and you need to get those branches up for me. It's just one of those things. And again, I'm just, again, preaching already what's out there as far as state statutes and as far as different recommendations, as far as the width and the height and all that kind of stuff. And then the last part is, having driveways sustainable to be able to hold 40,000-pound trucks, big equipment, is a must for us to get in. We go in and sometimes we sink out of sight, and then I have all kinds of complications where I call Jennifer or one of the ladies in the front office and say, bring that big John Deere tractor because Glenn needs help. That happened at least once this year. But those are the things. Any questions on there? We take any of those questions and that kind of stuff. And Jennifer's been pretty good about as far as like new people moving in, as far as like, you know, new homes and all that kind of stuff, making sure our driveways are there, our radiuses and all that kind of stuff. We'd love to live in the country. Don't get me wrong. I live in the town out on Bellbrook too. And I like that, all that kind of stuff. But at the same point, we gotta maintain driveways. We gotta maintain width, height, and all this other kind of stuff so we can get in. Otherwise, it's just so much extra work that at the end of the day, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to save a lot, and that's not my game. My game is to try to save as much as I possibly can. But at least give me a chance at getting in the yard. Anything else? Any questions, sir?
No.
Jennifer?
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your
Thank you.
services and your help. You need a
Gotcha.
round of applause.
Thank
Thanks, chief. Item 6, finance report by the treasurer.
Okay, I am Stephanie, the town treasurer and deputy clerk, and I just have a couple things to highlight for my treasurer's report for 2022. And a big one is that the interest began climbing in July, so mid-year of 2022. And then this year's rate so far is 4.26. Now that's a huge difference from last year's rate around this time of 0.16. So we are hoping that that will continue on, and we do hold 12 accounts. We hold some with State Bank of Cross Plains, which is in Lakeview, and then some with LGIP. LGIP are high yield accounts, and then we have one with State Bank of Cross Plains that is a high yield account as well. With 12 accounts with our new upgraded software, we would and intend to condense some of them, because our upgraded software can still keep our fund categories managed separately, but then we can kind of, we can bank on that compounding interest if we have higher account balances in all of our accounts, or in a few accounts rather than in 12. There were some park funds that were transferred from an LGIP account, which is local government investment pool account, to our spending accounts to cover purchase of parks, truck, and mower. That's why one of our accounts looks like it has barely anything in it, because it doesn't, it went to a different account for the time being. Yeah, I think that's all I have from the questions. On page 33 is the balances of the accounts in comparison to what they were last year. And I did write out what the interest rates are, and how they keep growing. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Stephanie? No questions, we'll move on. Item 7, budget comparison. For Hanson.
Okay, so the page 34 and 35 are going to be my budget notes, and then the budget comparison will actually be on page 36 through 38 of your packet. So the first big thing is that, we received some ARPA grant funding. We received, in 2022, received the second half and the final payment of 173. During 2022, we did have an increase in building permits. We also had a little bit of an increase in the zoning permits of someone, that would be if someone's applying for a land division or conditional use permit or rezoning, to pay a fee. There's an impact development fee. Right now, the park committee and the planning commission are working together because the town needs to create a needs analysis plan, and that's what will drive that impact fee account. There was an increase in the punch card stickers this year, so we had a slight increase in what we collected due to that. We had people interested in our cemetery, and we just had a few more grave sites sold than normal. There is a revenue for the Anderson County Park. We will not provide that service anymore, but we were providing mowing and snow removal service, but that has ended. Again, as Stephanie said, the interest income was higher than we anticipated in our revenues. And then we had some money that we had carried over from a loan for equipment due to the supply chain. We did not get that equipment, so that money was not spent in 2022 like we anticipated. We took out a loan that was to pay for the 2023 Oregon Fire capital equipment. We had a slight increase in our legal fees. We consolidated some of our accounts. We have a computer here. We had some higher computer support maintenance to keep all the spam and whatnot out. We bundled our internet and our phone together. And of course, now we pay for a Zoom fee for Zooming our board meetings. The clerk expense, we merged with clerk and treasurer's expense. They were separate. We merged that together into one account. So that is now going to include some of the costs that we have to for mailing the property tax bills and printing bills. We had a higher than anticipated election expense, but we purchased Badger books and we used the ARPA funds that we got for that. We had some complicated salt shed garage door problems. I'm not even quite sure what it was because we had to have it repaired and it took quite a bit of money. We replaced the siding, we re-tinned the shed out in the parking lot, and we also poured concrete. And part of that was the re-tin we had in our capital outlay account, and then the concrete we used ARPA funds on that. Again, we collected more building inspection fees, but then we pay out more in building inspection fees. The Bellbrook Bridge is it's getting worse, so we need 2 inspections a year, so it's more expensive because we have to pay an engineer to do that. We also paid for an engineering review on the Fish Hatchery Lincoln Road intersection. Of course, there was an increase in fuel costs. Repairs and supplies, we went a little bit over. They needed a new power washer. They got a trailer. There's quite a bit spent on cold patch this year. And they did some guardrail repair on Lincoln Road. Our salt, we had a decrease in the amount that we spent on salt. We did not use as much. The culverts, there was an increase in culverts because we replaced, I believe, all the culverts on Alpine. Okay. The highway equipment, again, we had budgeted to purchase equipment that did not come in, so that was not used. The major road work, there was no road work done in 2022 as the board wanted to put those funds towards the expensive road project of Alpine Road in 2023 this year. The solid waste expenses were a little higher. We had turnover employees, so we had to advertised for that, which was quite expensive. We had a lot of expense in, having the tires removed. And then we replaced the display case out at the recycling center. With state recycling funds expended that, I just wanted to clarify, that's always the Pelletier expense, what we pay Pelletier to get rid of it. The senior center was a little bit less than what we anticipated because there's a true-up credit. So sometimes when they don't fill an open spot, a position, we get a true-up credit at the end of the year. The youth center looks, that it was just because the 2021 and the 2022 donation both cleared in 2022. The parks, that expense was a little higher than we anticipated. They ended up paying for the mower, and they also purchased some new picnic tables, and I believe those were ADA picnic tables. And plan commission expenses, that was the salaries, we reimbursed them for the time that they spend here. And at the end of 2022, we were in debt. We were $673,303.72. That was our balance of debt. We did pay off the 2018 road construction loan in 2022. Our fund balance is $909,000. Plus we have their externally restricted and internally restricted funds. And you can see what those mean on page 42 of your packet. Our auditors gave us a little bit of some notation here of what that means. Some of this is our unspent, our ARPA funds. Some of it is from that loan that we had taken out for equipment that we haven't received yet, that we were still holding on once that equipment comes. And if anybody wanted to look at what our loans are or what our loans paid for, those are on page 39 and 40. Any questions?
We have any questions for Jennifer? On the budget? Seeing none? Excuse me, we'll move on. Local office for town officials. Jennifer, you want to swear in town board chair Carl Walter first?
I, Carl Walzer, who have been elected to the office of Town Board Chairperson in and for the town of Oregon in Dane County, have not yet entered upon the duties. Thereof swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability, so help me.
You take a picture so you can put it on the wall.
And then will Kate Gladding come forward?
I, Kate Gladdy, who have been elected to the office of Town Board Supervisor in and for the town of Oregon in Dane County, but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof, swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability, so help me God.
And will Steve Jernigan come forward?
I, Steve Jernigan, who have been elected to the office of Town Board Supervisor in and for the town of Oregon in Dane County, but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof, swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
Okay, you just met 3 of your new town board members. Let's welcome them to the town. Okay, item 9 is Belleville Fire and EMS report. Carl, you got a report?
I do, this is a quick one. Belleville Fire and EMS covers not only Belleville, but Montrose, Exeter, some of Brooklyn, and a very tiny portion of the town of Oregon. So we only have about 60 residents that are part of this fire and EMS district. The themes, Chief Limsmeyer mentioned these, and really the same themes are true for Belleville Fire and EMS. There are funding issues, there are staffing issues, and there are equipment issues. The fire side of Belleville has got equipment is their primary issue. It has been over the last 6 months to a year. They're on track to have to purchase about $1 million worth of equipment. Availability is also an issue for this type of equipment, so they may not even get delivery of that until 2024. On the EMS side, they've been fighting staffing issues because of turnover, because of lack of candidates, and have gone through a couple chief positions that have turned over the last less than a year. They also have funding issues because and related to staffing, they're not able to offer as much, competitive salaries. So it's been a tough year more for the EMS. I think on the fire side, they've determined early enough that they need this equipment and they need to move on it. So what we'll see in the town portion of this is that there'll be higher requests for budget support. Right now, we pay very little to them because of the small number of residents and homes that are covered. But these equipment and salary pressures will come down to us too for more support of the fire and EMS district. Got it.
Anybody got any questions on Belleville? Seeing none. We'll go to 10, Brooklyn Fire and EMS. I don't see Mark O'Brien here, so Fred, you're on your own.
Perfect. So, like everybody says, fire and EMS, short on funds and volunteers. Brooklyn is they have a full-time chief, but everybody else is a full-time volunteer for that fire and EMS district. The good news is they just got upgraded that they can now administer some IV fluids when they go out on calls. So they're not just a transport anymore. They can actually do some help of the citizens as they go to the hospital. So they've upgraded that. They bought a car like similar to what the chief has, that somebody that's on duty, that's at home, can take it home and be first on scene and not have to go to the fire station before he can get to a fire or a traffic stop. So that's some improvements in Brooklyn. Other than that, chief's doing well. He's in his second year of being full-time chief and everything's going good, and he just got his paramedic, so he's all good.
Anybody got any questions for Fred on Brooklyn? Seeing none, thanks, Fred. 11, Anderson Park Friends Report, Roe Parker.
Thank you, Wade. Good evening, everybody. My name's Roe Parker with Anderson Park Friends. We've been at this for about 10 years, and I was trying to think in terms of how would I describe what we're doing last year versus previously. The first year you might have heard me talk about Anderson Park Friends, I would have focused on the word forest and forest restoration. About 2015, we switched to prairies. And if you're going to look forward for the next 2 or 3 years, it's going to be the word agriculture. And I think that fits in with where we want to go as a township and keep our rural roots, as well as all the different parts of rural living that we all enjoy. So that we have a handout sheet here, green, there's a few white ones there. The first thing I'd like to do is to thank some of the town officials who have really, over the years, done so much in terms of volunteering their time and effort and support as well as their money. So I'd like to say thank you to Wayne. Wayne, thank you very much. You've been a longtime supporter. Arlen Christensen in the back has done a wide variety of things with us out in the park. He's gotten his hands dirty. He's brought his equipment out to the park to make that picnic area what you know it is today. Steve Rudd has been to the park. He's been to a lot of our meetings, lent a lot of expertise. Steve, thank you for your support over the years. We also want to recognize Dane County. We talk about accomplishments, but we could not do it without the support of the Dane County Parks Department, the Foundation for Dane County Parks, and Jerry Bollig represents Dane County and the support they've given. They've provided the money to buy the land from the Anderson family, and they've provided extra financial support over the years. In addition to that, Arlen Kai has been out in a number of different capacities as well as a member. Arlen, thank you for your support as well. So let me ask a quick question. How many of you have been to Anderson Farm County Park? Can I see a show of hands? I think we're talking to the right audience, and thank you to the rest of you for coming out and supporting the park. We appreciate it. If you look at the left-hand side of the handout, the first thing I mentioned is that we've had over 60 volunteers that have contributed just last year alone. And that we've had last year over 3,900 hours worth of volunteer time. And you could ask the question, well, how does this all add up? Well, the last 2 weekends, we had our annual dog park cleanup event. And we had 30 hours of volunteer time attributed to that. Last weekend was our spring cleanup, spring scout project at the park. So we had scouts as well as parents, as well as the regular Anderson Park friends donate their time as well. So there was another 45 hours all total. Just in the last 2 weeks, we've had 85 hours worth of volunteer time that has gone into the park. It's really been gratifying when you go out and you do this work, that you have somebody standing shoulder to shoulder with you. The other things that are listed at the bottom, these are our focus areas. I'm not going to go through those. I'm going to focus, I think, on the right-hand side of the handout and mention a few of the highlights. In terms of woods, we've made outstanding progress with the Arthur Schultz Memorial Forest. We made huge advancement this year in terms of removing the bad things out. They're invasive species. We're trying to have a natural woodland forest as well as a maple grove, a combination. We strive for an arboretum concept. We're not a natural area. That we also are putting things back into the park, that we have put in 18 new oak trees within the last 2 years alone. So we're going to be doing more putting back in. People got a sense of us as the people that were cutting things down and taking them out, and we removed a lot of foliage, but that was designed to support the oak trees in there, and the oaks are now flourishing. Within the prairies, and I'm including the Schultz Prairie next to the picnic area as well as the dog park, we've put together 45 acres worth of prairie in the park. This is outstanding for a relatively new park. Last year, we extended the Schultz Prairie an extra 4 acres so that we could create another wildlife habitat for ground nesting birds. So that was an accomplishment last year. Last year, we also started something brand new that was a fun community event. We call it our Fairy Door event. If you're not familiar with fairy doors, these are art objects that are about yay big. It's an art object that shows the front end of a cottage and a stoop and an Irish fairy that sits on the front. We had 15 of those placed in the woods. The idea is to get families to come out with young children and to look for the fairy doors and make a game of that and to get some exercise at the same time. That was wildly successful. The fairy doors probably went back out this week. We also had a very successful event last year. We called it our Rock art event. We had 26 rocks that were painted by 19 different artists from the Oregon area, high school students as well as other artists. The idea was that we painted each rock with a letter of the alphabet. So the letter E was the eagle. For B, we had Bucky Badger riding a bike. So we painted rocks this big. We put them along the hiking trails. And it's another way to get the kids interested in coming and looking for things and provide this community recreation activity for parents. So that was a very good event. One of the bullets refers to the Old Brick Garden Tour. Many of you might be familiar with their gardens tour. They go to one location in Dane County each year. They feature 5 or 6 private gardens. They came to Oregon last year. They also asked us to be a part of the tour, so we were highly complimented by the fact that they wanted to cooperate with us. So we were able to promote the community along with Old Brick Gardens. There was 40,000 flyers attached to the Wisconsin State Journal, and Anderson Farm County Park was part of that message to the overall Dane County community. We had over 230 people come out just in that 2 days alone to tour the hiking trails. We did a variety of events. Arbor Day is one of our most popular events. We did that with 6th graders last year, about 70 of them. We're doing that again this year. Last year, we couldn't do our Maple Syrup Day for Brooklyn elementary students. This year, we did it for 60 2nd graders from Brooklyn Elementary School. Very popular event. We were really disappointed we couldn't do the bonfire candlelight walk. We were all set to do it, but the weather did us in with 40, 50 mile an hour winds. As the fire marshals would know, this would not be the time to put a bonfire in a park like that. So we had to cancel that. We were sad to do that. The wildlife habitat, I make a reference here. We built that. Many of these are scout projects. We're continuing to maintain those. I identified our business members. Biochar New Earth is not there. It's an omission on my part, but it's a new small business that we're going to be working with that is going to be developing a unique and innovative way to create a concentrated compound additive that would be enhancing soil. So this is going to be something to help us with the gardens that we have there, because we'll be using that. We'll be doing research for that. So I think this is another way that we can benefit the community. And this is part of the intent of the Anderson family, because in their initial sale, agriculture was certainly one of the major reasons that they wanted to work with Dane County on that. Listed at the bottom as I close here, the Anderson Farm Center. Our food pantry garden last year was year number 3. We had over 3,000 pounds of fresh vegetables that went to Oregon, Belleville, and the Verona pantries. We also partnered with Rooted. This is a nonprofit on the north side of Madison. We had 22 community gardens out at the park. 16 of those were leased by Hmong families, so that was part of our diversity and inclusion project last year, and we're getting a great response again this year on those 1/4 acre community gardens. So these are not small gardens, it's 100 feet by 100 feet. People are screened in order to be able to lease those things, those areas. We ran into a number of problems where we lost fresh vegetables for the food pantries due to water and the high temperatures. So we decided to start a fundraising project. In 2021, we raised over $20,000 for a underground irrigation system. Before that, the county put in an agricultural well, and now we have a major irrigation system that is serving 12 acres, and it's designed so it can serve another 25 or 26 acres. And if you're wondering where that acreage is, it's in the fields that are northwest of Union Road and County A. In addition to this, we've had a need for additional infrastructure at the park. During 2022, we raised another $20,000. And it's in the bank, and we're making plans to work with Dane County to put more infrastructure at the park. We were just so complimented last April. I got a phone call on a Saturday morning. It was sunny. I was feeling good. Somebody called up, never knew who this person was. This was an anonymous donor that offered a challenge grant of $10,000. If we could match that 10,000 by the end of the year. December 31st at noon, I went, crap, I don't think we're gonna make it. It's gonna be about $400 short. And it was just so gratifying that the New Year's Eve day that 2 or 3 people came up with that $400. So we met that $10,000 goal. The other thing that we've done for the community is with the forest restoration that I'm referring to. We've taken out a lot of box elder, some maples, some dead pines, some pines that were in the way of the oaks. I think we've provided free wood to the community, probably between 2 and 3 tons. I don't know if you've noticed, but we noticed that anytime we put free wood out at the 914 parking lot, it's usually gone within 3 or 4 days. And this has been a real big benefit. So we've benefited a number of individuals for that. And some of the wood ends up not being burned. Lady got some of the wood from us this last year and turned those into bowls. So she created 4 or 5 bowls and sold those to some of our members. And also I do want to point out, if you remember, Union Road used to have these gorgeous 40 feet high maple trees. They needed to be taken down because they were rotted inside. The county took those down, but they repurposed those. So that if you go to the zoo in Madison and go to the bear exhibit, and you'll see the trunks there, those are the Union Road maples that they put in the zoo. So we had another great year. I invite you to come out and join us. If you want to take a tour, I'd be glad to offer you a 60-minute tour. There's a lot of neat things to see. Agriculture is in our future. And then I also mentioned that our park really goes on the west side of Union Road. There's a 45-acre forest there, and that we're going to be starting with Dane County to do some work in those woods this next year. So you'll see some changes there. And our hope is for more hiking trails as well as more prairie acreage. So are there any questions? Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. There's also pamphlets at the town hall here to join as a membership. And I know they're looking for members, so it's a yearly membership. I think it's $25 for a family or something like that, isn't it?
25 for.
So there is forms here to fill out for that if you're interested, so we appreciate that. Item 12. Any new business on the floor allowed under Wisconsin statute 60.10? Name on the floor? Seeing nothing. We will go to item 13. Award presentation, Jennifer.
We've got orchard and.
Well, you want me to do it?
Yeah, you can do it.
That's okay.
I can do Friday.
You want it? I'll go get it.
Okay, so we know Fred had 10 years on the board as supervisor. We worked together all them years and we really appreciate your time and effort and hard work put in the township.
You heard that.
And the town will miss you. We appreciate it, Fred. So if you'd come forward. For the family wife. We make the other half to make things work. Anything to say, Fred?
Yeah, just saying, I'll give it back to your.
Thank you.
So 10 years ago, Daryl Weber stopped at my house and said, hey Fred, I think you'd be great for a supervisor. I'm like, oh, what the heck, I'll give it a shot. So. Did, ran, Becky, I walked in and I said to Becky, Daryl Weber wants me to be on the board, and she said, what? So. It's been a great 10 years. I appreciate everybody that I've worked with over the years on the board. The ladies in the office, the gentlemen in the garage. It takes a great community of all of us working together to make this township run. So thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Yep, thank you, Fred. Yeah, Kurt's here. Kurt, you wanna come forward? Kurt Maher has been the town constable for 6 years, I believe, correct? Yep. And you're the last constable.
That good.
We retired to position and went to the Dane County for our services now. But we appreciate the 6 years of service that you did. You know, you did a lot of park checks and helped Steve Rudd out a lot, and we really appreciate that, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brian. Well, here.
Like plants too.
No, there ain't. Put it in your garden.
Thank you.
Thank you. Definitely not here.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not.
We had him work for Brian because he had 19 years on plan commission, but Brian didn't make it.
Just think you can get one too, Steve, eventually.
And I feel like Dee needs more than one plant. She needs a whole basket or like a. Or something for all the.
Purple plant.
You do know that, I think that's Wayne's favorite color, right? Purple.
That's her favorite.
Purple was somehow in there. Well, this is for Wayne, 26 years, holy cow, it's unbelievable. And if you add it up, I think there's 61 years of service for all of them, which is unbelievable, but that's not including Andy Blomstrom. So if you added Andy Blomstrom, it would be 86 years
Really?
of service that we are losing in 1 year. It's unbelievable. So I just want to thank Wayne for everything he's done and obviously for the town, and it's going to be a great loss, and Fred as well, Kurt too. Please keep sending us calendars, Kurt.
You got it.
So thank you guys for everything. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, we thank you, and it's been a long haul. I think I went through 15 different supervisors, 3 different clerks, 2 different deputy clerks, 4 fire chiefs, and 6 employees in the shop. I think I got that right. But yeah, it's been good, and hope we made some improvements in the town, and I know everything's gonna head in the right direction from here on out, so thanks everybody for coming. Thank you. Item 14, Fred.
So move.
Fred called the motion for the adjourn at 7:04. I second it. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, gonna say an aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Keep track of what's on.
You know, I was thinking.